Chapter 11. That's the same Dalek that was on the freighter! Despite my fear, I was surprised by the amount of hatred in my own voice.
Same type, different Dalek,
the doctor said, not taking his eyes off it. Daring to lean past him, I slightly noticed what this Dalek had. It had the same overall appearance in terms of colour, black with gold trim and blue spheres. Its arm had a dish at its end, from which protruded like a small ring on a rod, which crackled with electricity. The Dalek suddenly flickered with a blue crackle like a glitching holographic image before blinking out of existence. "How's it doing that?" I said, moving back behind the doctor.
Oh, it's still there. Look carefully,
he said quietly. I studied the area where the Dalek had been, and after a moment I noticed a faint trace of the blue crackle in the air, like lots of little explosions of lighting.
It's a Dalek infiltrator. Never seen one before today.
He cracked a slight smile.
No pun intended, but I've heard about them. A long time ago, the Daleks tried to discover the secret of invisibility using light waves, and managed it. But prolonged use caused a fatal sickness.
I nervously glanced around looking for the blue crackle in the air, wishing I'd never taken my eyes off it. Looks like they found a cure.
I doubt it. However...
The doctor peered cautiously around the corner again, and gestured for me to keep low as we moved across the courtyard to a low wall. After we stopped, he continued.
Invisibility is just the bending of light waves. That's child's play. But to make an object disappear and reappear at will still takes a lot of energy.
So how was it doing that? I repeated my earlier question.
When I first met the Daleks, they used static electricity to move. And whilst they've since found other means of automotive power, their ability to harness static power means they can generate a lot of energy, and in turn use the energy to generate a light field. Think of it as a kind of invisibility cloak.
But how? I queried, still waiting for an answer. He gestured around.
You think all this greenery is just nature taking the land back? The Daleks have likely detonated some kind of device to encourage terraforming. The device likely caused, maybe even still causes, regular storms, leading to not just plant growth, but high concentrations of atmospheric electricity.
The doctor scoffed derisively.
Even the Daleks managed to turn the creation of life into a weapon.
He peered back around the corner, and signalling the coast was clear, we moved across to the other side of the courtyard, ducking behind the partially still standing wall of what once been the general store.
The blue colour on the sensor globes isn't just for show. From what I've heard, on an infiltrator Dalek, they're used to store both the energy needed to create the light field as well as generate it. That's where the rod on its arm comes in. It draws in the electrical energy from the atmosphere and uses it to create a light field.
Enough with the science lesson, I snapped impatiently. Is there any way to stop it?
Well, it can't stay invisible for long,
the doctor replied.
It no doubt needs time to gather electricity and recharge. So if we could somehow wait for it to get a full charge and then overload it, we might be able to destroy it.
Checking once more for any signs of the Dalek, and taking an extra moment to look for any signs of the crackling light in the air, he pulled his sonic screwdriver from his bandolier again. Cupping it in his hands, he held it to his ear as it emitted its usual buzzing sounds, but more muffled. As he listened, his eye twinkled and his mouth broke into a wide grin.
Perfect! Oh.
He declared loudly before putting his hand over his mouth and quickly glancing around, hoping the Dalek hadn't heard him. After a moment, he lowered his hand in a more hushed tone and said,
I think we have a plan. Follow me and keep low.
Quickly but carefully we made our way down a few old streets. Some I instantly recognised. Others, the devastation of battle and reclamation of nature had changed them behind my memories. Several times we found our way blocked and had to double back. But the doctor, he took it in his stride, occasionally stopping to sweep the sonic screwdriver in a wide motion, holding it up to his ear again and dashing off down another street. Eventually, we rounded a corner and saw a large cylindrical tower leering over us. And after getting my bearings, I realised it was a water tower at the rear of the Metal Smiths. The Metal Smiths itself was like many other buildings surrounding it, a mere tumbled down husk of walls. But now, just inside of the walls was a large blank metal box-like structure. Set into the front of it was a panel, slanted on either side but with a curved top, and on the surface to its right, a small dome-like protuberance with two metal prongs sticking out of it. It looked not unlike the fuse slots that I'd often repaired on the freighter, but minus a fuse.
Ah!
The doctor exclaimed.
This is more like it.
What is it? I questioned him, making sure to keep a couple of steps behind him. If anything did happen, then something told me he'd be prepared a lot more than I would be.
It's a station pod. A home away from home for a Dalek.
He approached the inset panel and thrust the tip of his sonic screwdriver between the two prongs of the dome. The sonic suddenly emitted a very large but short buzzing as a shower of sparks appeared at the other end. And then the inset panel slid to one side. It was a door. The Doctor strode confidently inside, and after a moment I followed suit. Inside the pod were several banks of computers, screens, and off to one side a small ramp, which led to a raised round dais. From the ceiling around this hung several cables with plug-like appendages at the ends.
Well,
The Doctor said with an almost impressed tone.
They've certainly upgraded these since the last time I saw one. All the bells and whistles. Direct contact to the nearest fleet for reports, local monitoring readouts.
He rapped his knuckle on the wall.
And fully insulated. But
He turned to the dais.
This is what I'm really looking for.
I said with a degree of smugness. Charging station. The Doctor looked over to me and raised an eyebrow.
Very good,
he said, impressed. I chuckled. We had a similar setup for the service droids on the freighter. And then my smile faded as I remembered Alex, and then John and Alan. As if sensing my pain, the Doctor cleared his throat and continued.
Yes, well, herein lies the solution to dealing with our little friend out there. It's probably already on its way over here.
What? I said, as I felt that familiar sense of panic and dread wash over me, as I quickly glanced over the door expecting to see a dark shape approaching. I thought we'd lost it. The Doctor scoffed.
Not a chance. The Daleks are like bloodhounds. Once they get a whiff of anything non-Dalek, they won't stop seeking it out until they find it. Plus, I probably set off some sort of alarm when I opened the door.
I let out an exasperated sigh. Well, that's just brilliant. I'm going to hope you've got a plan. As I turned back to the Doctor, he was sweeping the sonic over a panel at the back of the dais, before carefully trying to pull it off with no luck. Stepping back, he thrust his leg out and his foot caught the edge of the panel, sending it clattering onto the floor. He smiled.
As the saying goes, if it isn't broke...
He grabbed a handful of wires inside the exposed panel. With an almighty heave and many sparks, he ripped them out. He then turned his attention to cables hanging from the ceiling, and jumping up he grabbed one, swinging on it for a few moments before it also broke loose, then came clattering onto the floor. His smile widened.
Then break it!